Assalamualaikum and a very good day to our Eco 211 lecturer, Dr. Farida binti Fardi, and also my dearest group mates. First of all, praise to Allah as we get the chance to gather in making this online presentation a success on this wonderful day. Inshallah. Before I forget, allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Nurhani MASTURA binti Muhammad Hanafi. I will be the first and the last presenter. Following after me is the second presenter, Muhammad HAKIMI bin SAPARI. The third presenter will be Nur HAFIZAH binti ZAINAL, while for the third and fourth presenters will be presented by Muhammad FAIZ HELMI bin Muhammad FAIZAL and Muhammad HAMIZAN bin Muhammad RAFIEE. Alright, we shall continue today's presentation. We will present the topic we have chosen and study, that is effects on unemployment, effects of high unemployment in Malaysia. So, this is the content that we will present shortly. Firstly, we will have the introduction. What is unemployment? According to Investopedia, unemployment occurs when a person who is actively searching for employment is unable to find work. It also can be defined as individuals who are in the working age group are able to work but can't find suitable jobs. So, what are the possibilities that will happen when this unemployment issue arises? I stated 4 here, which are: it will impact on the long-term economic development. It will also drive people to poverty or misery. It's such a waste of resources and can reduce one's self-esteem. All of the effects that I just stated just now are within the general scope only. But worries no more, my fellow presenters will explain briefly about each part of effects and measures to control unemployment as it appears on the screen now. Now, I will give this presentation to the second presenter, Hakimi.
Thank you, Hani, for the presentation. Next, I will explain the effect of high unemployment in Malaysia. The first effect is economic growth is slowing down. Next, the world predicts Malaysia's economic growth is expected to decline drastically from 4.6% in 2019 to negative 0.1% by 2020, effect of the COVID-19 virus. Due to COVID-19 virus, a firm has to lay off its employees due to reduced demand for goods sold. This kind of situation will give production to the goods will be diminished, and the most worrying is unemployment in Malaysia will increase. Next. So high employment can affect economic growth is slowed down. So how it can be like this? Firstly, when there are many unemployed workers, production for some sector of the economy will decrease, and as a result, the country's output for the government will fall. Next, waste of production resources leads to lower production output than the performance output. When the firms decline will cause a decrease in goods sold abroad, exports, and lastly, when decrease in goods sold abroad, export, which will drive economic growth to slow down. Next. So what the effect on export, import and trade when economic growth slow down? A report on Malaysia's foreign trade statistics, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, in a statement spiriting the country export also declined by 23.8% to RM94.92%. At the same time, imports again falls 8.0% to RM 98.42 billion. The trade balance recorded a deficit of 3 billion in April 2019. This is because apart from Malaysia, most of Malaysian trading partner countries are still struggling with the COVID-19 epidemic. So, export demand will also be affected. Export will continue to decline and economic growth will decrease and slow down. As for me, I will pass the presentation to HAFIZAH.
Thank you to Hakimi for your presentation. Next, I will explain to you about the second effect that has occurred in Malaysia due to the high unemployment, which is government tax revenue. Next. So, what happened with the government tax revenue? As we know, high unemployment can affect the government tax revenue. And how can it be like that? Firstly, we need to know that not only does it influence those people who are employed, on the other hand, the nation will lose their contribution to the economy because tax is the main component of the government income source. Next. Before we go further, I will explain the meaning of tax. Tax are implemented to meet the needs of the government, the people and the country. Currently, the national tax structure stipulates that the taxable class consists of corporations and individuals, exporters and importers, manufacturers and gamblers. Next. So, what is the relationship between labor tax and the government expenditure? As we can see, when the labor tax burden increases, it impacts government expenditure. Labor tax burden has a positive relationship with the government expenditure, where the increment in labor tax burden will increase government expenditure. Next. Different from government expenditure and unemployment. When unemployment is high or increased, it gives the impact to the government expenditure, which is leading to the decrease. Hence, unemployment and the government expenditure has a negative relationship. Next. This can be proven in data 2009, where Malaysia recorded the highest unemployment in 2009. This means in 2009, labor resources are not being used efficiently. Therefore, this gives effect to the tax revenue because of the decrease in income tax due to the high unemployment. Next. In brief, high unemployment gives a negative effect to the economy of Malaysia and leads to declining government expenditure for the citizens, government, and the country. That's all from me. Next, I will pass this presentation to FAIZ HELMI.
Thank you to HAFIZAH. I will talk about measure 1, which is increase the minimum wages. Next. First of all, what is minimum wages? Minimum wages have been defined as the minimum amount of remuneration that an employer is required to pay which earns for the work performed during a given period, which cannot be reduced by collective agreement or individual contract. Next. We go to the first benefits of increased minimum wages, which is increased purchasing power of employees. An increase in employee salaries will increase production costs and reduce employers' profit if they still sell goods at the same price. However, we need to remember that the most basic thing is that if the goods produced do not sell, then no profit will be earned. Increasing the minimum wage means that the purchasing power of employees will also increase. As the purchasing power of the majority of the people increase, the goods produced by the manufacturer will also be able to sell more. Profits earned by manufacturers and distributors as a result of numerous sales will bring increased profit even if the prices of their goods are not raised. Thus, increasing the minimum wage of workers can help improve business and drive more sustainable in the economic growth. Second benefit, tool for moderate job growth. It takes an examination of the stimulative impact of minimum wage rise to prove that increasing the minimum wage will be a tool for moderate job growth. The minimum wage increase will not trigger job reduction. In reality, minimum wage increase will create employment across the country. For instance, for low and middle income employees, unemployment insurance benefits or tax breaks, raising the minimum wage puts more money in working people's pocket when they need the most, thus increasing their purchasing power. Economists generally realize that low-wage workers are more likely than other income groups to spend any extra income on basic needs or service that were previously unreachable. This can increase the demand for goods and service by raising the minimum wage while making employers in the broader economy bring new workers to keep up with the increasing demand. Next, positive impact on GDP. The rise in the minimum wage will help workers who are still surviving the economic downturn effect. The resulting economic impact as a whole will be universally positive, with a minimum wage employees instantly spending their new earnings, causing a positive effect on GDP. The immediate benefits of a minimum wage increase are the increased wages of the lowest paid employees, but its positive result will overshadow the extra revenue. Economists have long known that rising buying power by bringing money into the wallets of the people for consumer to spending has positive ripple effects on the economy. That's all from me. I will pass this presentation to HAMIZAN.
Thank you to FAIZ for your presentation. Next, I will explain to you about the second measure that the government can do to reduce the unemployment rate in Malaysia, which is by expanding fiscal policy. First of all, what is the meaning of fiscal policy? Fiscal policy refers to a policy that, by changing the balance between government spending and taxation, that can affect the aggregate demand and the level of real income. So, by introducing an expansionary fiscal policy, the government can stimulate the aggregate demand, thus reducing the deflationary gap. Next, what is the relationship between government expenditure and taxation? As we can see, the purpose of expansionary fiscal policy seeks to control production and employment by raising government expenditure and reducing taxation. By lowering taxation levels, contributes to higher levels of disposable income and higher levels of consumption. Besides that, to close the deflationary gap, government typically increases its budget, which would directly increase aggregate demand, as government spending stimulate demand for goods and services. At the same time, the government will decide to reduce taxes, which will indirectly lift the aggregate demand curve by encouraging consumers to spend and invest more money at their disposal. This also could lead to higher demand and economic growth. Next, what is the relationship between aggregate demand and real income? As we can see, by lowering taxation levels, contribute to higher levels of consumption. So, the consumption growth also contributes to higher aggregate demand and higher gross domestic product. The companies will respond to demand growth and higher GDP by growing production, which needs more workers. Furthermore, there are fewer jobs losses when profitable economic growth and higher aggregate demand, while firms stay in operation. Therefore, to boost the economy, the government must either reduce taxes or raise expenditure. Reducing taxes is like lowering interest rates. Both provide companies and customers with more money to invest, which can enhance demand and also offers more cash for companies to spend and recruit more employees. That's all from me. Next, I will pass this presentation to Hani.
Thank you everyone for your wonderful presentation. Now, I will conclude what we have got throughout this case study. Next. There are various sources of unemployment worldwide, and every problem must come with its solutions or measures to control the problem from continuing to rise. While talking about the effects, there must be a solution or ways to control it. In this unemployment issue, we can see that the government has taken safety measures to ensure that this problem will not arise as long as appropriate action is taken. Next. Next. In a nutshell, we can conclude that unemployment is a significant problem for any economy. When they are unemployed and suffer from worse chances of seeking new employment, this causes detrimental consequences for the unemployed. Those who are working feel less confident in keeping their jobs in the future. However, the government must increase productivity and improve the standard of living for overall economic, government, and individual growth. Next. Before we end, I would like to grab this opportunity to thank our Eco lecturer, Dr. Farida, who has taught us during these 2 semesters. It was such a wonderful journey to have you as our lecturer. Thank you so much for your understanding towards your students, and we will not forget all the knowledge that has been poured out. Lastly, I, Nurhani MASTURA binti Muhammad Hanafi, representing my group BA1193D, would like to apologize if there were any mistakes we made during our time as your students. We will definitely miss you, and that is all from us. Thank you.